Hi everyone, and welcome to this lesson about English literature. We are going to start with a period called the Renaissance or the Renaissance, whichever you like. And it is a period that is quite significant in English literary history, as we will find out. So, the Renaissance was between around 1485 and 1660 in England. This is very important to note because the Renaissance started a bit earlier in its motherland, which was Italy. And yeah, many of the ideas that affect English people at this time comes from Italy. So let's keep that in mind. Now then, what happens in the world around about this time? Well, first of all, we discover how to print stuff. Previously, we've copied things by just writing new versions of it. That was one of the monks' jobs, actually. So then they discovered this lovely machine, the printing press, which meant that we could make more copies of the same book and spread it a lot faster than we used to do. So that's a good thing. Round about this time as well, we have the Reformation. I don't know if you remember your history correctly or anything, because I don't know what you talked about in primary school and stuff, but the Reformation was when Martin Luther, a German monk, questioned the Catholic Church and basically made his own version of Christianity. And this affected England quite a bit, and I think, if I remember this PowerPoint correctly, I will mention it again quite soon. Anyhoosers, because of the Reformation and because of the discovery of the national personality, which meant Englishness, right? The country's own language, which is in our case English, but in other countries like German or French or whatever, grew to have better status than Latin, which used to be the popular language, but isn't anymore. That's one thing, right? We also explore the world and America, among other things. And we start to found colonies and stuff. And the British started a colony in America around where Virginia is now. Virginia was actually named after the Queen, Elizabeth, who was known as the Virgin Queen. And Queen Elizabeth is very important and historical figure. She was one of the greatest queens in England of all time, right? Huge impact. And the first English theatres were built, which is kind of cool. And things that come from the Renaissance in Italy is ideas from ancient Greece and ancient Rome, because they're sort of in fashion at the moment. And those kinds of ideas were... oh, we'll get to that. Anyway, because Latin is unpopular and English is the new deal, most of the literature, not all of it, but most of it is written in English instead of Latin. And because of the Reformation, religion is no longer the main theme in all literary works. Is basically we change our focus, so we don't think so much about God and heaven and hell and stuff. We think more about humanity and human life on Earth and what that means. Right. That's the theme in Renaissance literature. The fact that we have a female queen, um, you'll have to forgive me if I lose my place. I'm trying to remember all the things that I need to say. But anyway, the fact that we have a female queen means that um, most of the poets feel like they need to sort of celebrate her beauty and express their love for the queen, which eventually leads to different themes that involve love. So we have courtly love, which is love for the queen, right? We have timeless love, which is basically almost the same as constant love, but not really. And then we have unrequited love, which is basically when someone loves a person but they don't love you back. That's also a theme. It's quite popular. And because of our explorations in America and the rest of the world, literature expresses the idea of Englishness versus everyone else. So to be English is to be white, male, preferably, but females are okay too, um, who is Christian, yeah, and has, well, a fair bit of money, but not too rich, right? So this is Englishness, right? And otherness is basically anything else. Remember that we have other things like slave trade that come in after a while, right? So this is something that is very, goodness, I can't find words. It's very clear in some literature, among others Shakespeare. If you want to have a look at a very typical example of this, you can read or watch a filmatisation of Shakespeare's Othello. It's very good. We also have a theme that is about developing human potential. We don't start off as great, but we become great eventually. Yeah? Now then, the ideas that come from ancient Greece and ancient Rome as well, and just forgot to write that, dominate the worldview. And we can have a look-see at the picture right next to us. This is one of the ideas that come from ancient Greece, and that is the chain of being. More specifically, comes from Aristotle. But anyway, it's sort of a ranking order to who is more important than the other, right? So minerals and plants and animals are not as important as gods and angels and demons. And men and women are somewhere in between. This is a good thing to remember for when you're reading stuff later. We also have an idea about art being perfect and eternal, and it's a way to sort of tame natural things. You can see it in literature, you can see it in paintings, and you can also see it in gardens even. Because gardens from this time are very tamed. They have specific forms and stuff. So if you've seen a bush statue of something, then it comes from this basic idea that you can tame nature to be whatever you want it to be and call it art. Now then, the two foremost forms of literature from this time is drama and poetry. We don't write novels all that much, and we don't write political text or anything. It's basically drama and poetry, and this is also something that comes from antiquity, yes? What we also need to remember is that printing press, is quite expensive, and writers are sort of divided into two groups. We have nobles that have money and stuff that can write and publish basically anything. And then we have poorer people who cannot afford to publish anything at all and has to seek funds from nobles or other rich people in order to publish their stuff. So yeah, good thing to remember, huh? Now then, some important writers and their work. Some of them we are going to work with in class, hopefully. So this is one dude, Sir Philip Sidney. His name suggests that he has a bit of money and so does his dress, right? And he is most famous for a poem called Astrophil and Stella. And it's not actually a poem, it's a sonnet. And he is very inspired by all these Italian writers, yeah? We also have Christopher Marlowe, who is most famous for his work Dr. Faustus. Very big competitor of another known Renaissance writer that we will talk about in a bit. This guy, William Shakespeare. This is Marlowe's competitor, yeah? Now Shakespeare was a very productive man. He wrote sonnets and he wrote a bunch of plays, among which are Midsummer Night's Dream, Othello, Romeo and Juliet, Twelfth Night, Hamlet. I mean, there are loads more, but these are just some examples, yeah? And then we have John Donne. He's a bit late into the Renaissance scene and he's sort of borderlines the next period, which is the Enlightenment. But one of his poems is a valediction forbidden mourning. Quite beautiful. See if we have any more. Yes, we do. We have Mr. John Milton, who is famous for the quite substantial poem Paradise Lost. Now then, in short, to sum this up and everything for you, the Renaissance was between 1485 and 1660. Important events to remember is the Reformation and Queen Elizabeth and the fact that we're discovering new worlds. And a lot of ideas that we have comes from the ancient world. Typical themes are different kinds of love, both tragic and comical, and also the thing about human development, never forget that. Common forms are drama and poetry. And I can see that I've misspelled something here, but pretend that you don't see that this word here is misspelled. But printing is quite expensive, needs funding, which means that poor people look for patrons. If you have any questions about this, which I am quite sure you do, because this was very confusing and short, write them down and we'll talk about them in class. But until class, have a nice day.